Mr. Moore's math class!
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to Mr. Moore's online math class. That's right, guys, these lessons are designed so that you can learn mathematics from wherever and whenever it suits you best. For example, you can learn maths from the comfort of your own couch. You can also learn maths from a nice little study area that you may have set up inside your bedroom. And some kids, not all, have even reported learning maths from the comfort of their own toilet. I just did not need to know about it. Anyway, guys, we're going to learn all about how to factorize quadratic expressions today. Now, to do that, what we need to recognize is it's the actual complete reverse to expanding quadratic expressions. Yeah, guys, I know, that was pretty old the first time we saw it. Anyway, there's a few things that you need to know when factorizing quadratic expressions because different circumstances will call for different types of working out. So the first thing we need to learn is how to factorize quadratic expressions by taking out the highest common factor.
So whenever factorizing quadratic expressions, the first step that you must always do is take out any common factors. So let's have a quick look at what I mean by this. So in this worked example, the question says factorize the following by taking out any common factors. Alright, well let's have a look at each one of these. You've got negative 6x squared y plus 15xy. So if you have a look at the numbers here, you've got negative 6 and 15. Now what we can actually see is a common factor of 3. But what we'll always do is take the negative out and put that out the front of the brackets because it just keeps things a little bit nice and neater. So we'll actually make the common factor negative 3. So let's write that out the front, negative 3. Alright, if we have a look at the pronumerals now, we've got x squared and x, so the highest common factor between those is just 1x. And we've got y and y, so of course that's a common factor there too. So the highest common factor between both of these is negative 3xy. Write the brackets now, and if I multiply something by negative 3xy and I get negative 6x squared y, well that something needs to be negative 3 times 2 will get us negative 6, so the 2 goes here. X times x will get us x squared, and y times 1 will be y, so you don't need to worry about the 1 there. Once again, you've got negative 3xy and you've got an answer of 15xy, so what do I need to multiply it by? Well, negative 3 times negative 5 will get us 15, so negative 5 goes here, and your x and your y, well there you go, you've got your x and your y there, so you don't need to do anything else. So the factorized version of this is equal to negative 3xy at the front with 2x minus 5 in the brackets. Of course, if you expand that, then you'll get this answer that you can see here. So essentially what we have is the highest common factor goes out the front, and of course whatever you need to multiply this by in order to get your two answers here is what will actually go in the brackets. So these are the other factors. Let's apply that now to the next question, 24mp minus 16m squared s. Alright, the highest common factor between 24 and negative 16 of course will be positive 8. So we write 8 out the front. The highest common factor between m and m squared of course is m. And p and s, well there's no common factor there, so you're just going to write bracket. Now 24mp, so what I need to multiply 8m by to get 24mp, well it's going to be 3 because 8 times 3 is equal to 24. M times 1 will get us m, so we don't need to write the m, and you've got p in order to get the mp. Minus 8 times 2 will get us 16. M times m will get us m squared, so we need to put the m in. And of course we need to put the s in as well in order to get the 16m squared s. Once again, the highest common factor is out the front, and these two here are just factors. And once again applying this skill now to another question, let's have a look at this. We've got a common factor of 3 that you can see here between 12 and 9, but of course they're both negative, so let's take the negative out the front. So we're going to get this is equal to negative 3. Alright, the common factor between r cubed and r squared, well the highest common factor will actually be r squared, because r squared goes into both r cubed and r squared. And the highest common factor between t and t cubed, well that'll actually be t. Open the brackets now, so you get negative 3 times what will get you negative 12, well that's 4. R squared times what will get you r cubed, well that's going to be just r. T times what will get you t, well it's just 1, so you don't need to write anything. Negative 3 times what will get you negative 9, well that's going to be positive 3. R squared times what will get you r squared, well that's just 1, so you leave it as it is. And t times what will get you t cubed, well that's t squared. And there we have it, we've taken out the common factor of negative 3r squared t, and we've got in the brackets 4r plus 3t squared. And that's fully factorized there. Now it's time to press pause once again and attempt the following questions. Like always, make sure you press play once you're done to check your answers against mine. Alright, so having a look at the first question, the highest common factor between 4 and negative 8, well that's actually going to be 4, so I've written 4 as a number at the front here. The highest common factor between q squared and q is q, so I've written that here. And the highest common factor between r and r cubed will of course be r, so I've written that here. Now what do I need to multiply 4qr by in order to get 4q squared r? Well, I just need one more q in there, so I've just written the q. And what do I need to multiply 4qr in order to get negative 8qr cubed? Well, I need to multiply it by negative 2 to get 4 times 2 is negative 8. Q times 1 will just be q, so you don't need to write the 1 there. And r times r squared will get us r cubed. So this here is the highest common factor. And this here is basically the quotient if you divide both these terms by this 4qr. Or in other words, that's the other factor. Alright, the highest common factor between 25x cubed y and negative 30x squared y cubed. Alright, well the highest common factor in terms of the numbers, the highest common factor between 25 and negative 30 of course is 5. Looking at the x's now, the highest common factor between x cubed and x squared, well that will be x squared. And the highest common factor between y and y cubed will of course just be y. Now what do I need to multiply 5x squared y by in order to get 25x cubed y? Well, I know I need to multiply 5 by 5 in order to get 25, so there's the first 5. And I know in order to raise the power of x squared to x cubed, I need to multiply it by an x. And I've already got just the 1y here and the 1y in the answer, so therefore I can just leave it as 5x. Looking at the next term now, what do I need to multiply 5 by in order to get negative 30? Well, that's going to be negative 6, because 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. What do I need to multiply x squared by in order to get x squared? Well, that's just 1, so you don't need to write that in. And of course, what do I need to multiply y by in order to get y cubed? Well, that's going to be your y squared. So that gets us negative 6y squared. The final question now, looking at the numbers, what's the highest common factor between negative 48 and negative 36? Well, that's going to be negative 12. Remember, if you've got the negative out the front of the first term, just take it out the front of the brackets. What's the highest common factor now between a cubed and a? Well, that's just going to be the a here. And of course the highest common factor between b squared and b to the power of 7 of course will be b to the power of 2, or b squared. Now if I have a look at it, what do I need to multiply negative 12ab squared by in order to get negative 48a cubed b squared? Well, negative 12 times 4 will get us negative 48, so the 4 goes here. A times a squared will get us a cubed, so the a squared goes here. And of course b squared and b squared, well they're the same, so I don't need to worry about putting any b's in. Looking at the next term now, negative 12 times 3 will get us negative 36, so you just write positive 3 out the front here. A times 1 will just get us a, so we don't need to write the 1. And b squared times b to the power of 5 will get us b to the power of 7, so you write the b to the power of 5 here. Leaving us with negative 12ab squared out the front, and in brackets 4a squared plus 3b to the power of 5.